Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin with a simple idea. You are not your thoughts. You are merely the manager of them. And just like any manager, you must decide what stays, what goes, and what gets promoted. Because if you let negative thinking run the show, it won't just ruin your day, it'll rob you of your destiny. Now let me be clear. Negative thoughts will come. They're free. They're automatic. You don't even have to subscribe to them. They show up like junk mail. But just because they show up doesn't mean you have to read them. You see, negative thinking multiplies problems. And problems don't need multiplying. They're quite good at that on their own. Positive thinking, on the other hand, multiplies options. It doesn't deny the problem. It just gives you something useful to do about it. I like to think of the mind like a garden. Weeds, they grow without effort. Sunshine or storm, they show up. But flowers, those take intention. They take planting, watering, pruning. That's your job, to plant what matters and pull what doesn't. Now here's a truth worth remembering. Life doesn't respond to your complaints. It responds to your energy, your effort, your attitude. You may not be able to change the wind, but you can set a better sail. And when you do, the same storm that sank someone else's boat can carry you forward. You cannot control every event, but you can absolutely master your response to it. You don't get to choose all the circumstances, but you do get to choose your interpretation, your mindset, your next move. That choice is the difference between victims and victors. And finally, discipline your thinking, and you discipline your future. You can't afford to be casual with your thoughts. Casual thinking leads to a casual life, and this life, this one life, is too valuable for that. So my message today is simple. Kill your negative thinking. Before it kills your ambition, kill your negative thinking. Before it poisons your relationships, kill your negative thinking. Before it talks you out of the life you were meant to live. Don't just survive your mind. Lead it, train it, use it. Because when you do, when you truly take control, everything changes. Not just what's around you, but what's within you. You are not your thoughts, only the manager of them. This is one of the most liberating and empowering truths you can ever come to understand. Most people go through life thinking that whatever passes through their mind must be true, must be real, must be a reflection of who they are. But the truth is far more freeing. Your thoughts are suggestions, not commands. They are possibilities, not facts. You are not obligated to obey every voice that enters your head. Let's break it down. You wake up in the morning, and a thought comes in. I don't think I'm good enough for this job. That's a thought, not a truth. But if you don't separate yourself from it, it becomes your identity. It shapes your decisions. You start playing small. You avoid taking risks. Not because reality said so, but because you let a passing thought sit in the driver's seat. But here's the good news. Your mind is your tool, not your master. You're the thinker of the thoughts, not the thought itself. That means you have the ability and the responsibility to observe, challenge, and redirect your thinking. A negative thought shows up? Good. That's your cue to manage it. You look at it, you ask, where did this come from? Does this help me? Does it move me forward or hold me back? If it holds you back, you don't entertain it. You replace it. You choose a better one. This takes practice. It takes awareness. Because negative thoughts are sneaky. They don't announce themselves with a warning label. They blend in. They sound like you. They wear your voice, your fears, your doubts. And if you're not careful, they begin to control the tone of your life. Not because they're strong, but because you never challenge them. That's where management comes in. Think of your mind like a busy office. Ideas, memories, fears, dreams, they're all filing in, one after another. Who's in charge? You are. The moment you forget that, you give power to the noise. You let the wrong employee take over the meeting. But once you take the manager's chair, once you reclaim authority, you get to say that thought doesn't serve me. That story is outdated. That fear is a lie. And you escort it out. Now this doesn't mean you never have a bad day. It doesn't mean you ignore real problems. But it does mean you stop giving your negative thinking a permanent seat at the table. You treat it like a guest that overstayed its welcome. Remember this. Your thoughts are powerful, but they're not permanent. They're not all-knowing. They're not divine. They're just habits, mental loops, shaped by past experiences, fears, environments. and even the people you've spent time around. And if they were learned, they can be unlearned. If they were adopted, they can be rejected. So the next time you find yourself thinking, I'm not good enough, or this always happens to me, or nothing ever works out, pause. Don't argue with it. Just smile like a wise manager who knows better. Say thanks for your input and move on. You don't need to banish all negative thoughts from existence. You just need to stop letting them run the place. You are not your thoughts. You are the one deciding what to do with them. And once you step into that role, not just once, but daily, you begin to reclaim your mind. You gain clarity. You find power. You become intentional. And that, my friend, is where transformation begins. Negative thinking multiplies problems. Positive thinking multiplies options. That's not just a nice saying. It's a deep truth about how the mind works and how outcomes are created. The way you think directly shapes how you interpret life, how you respond to challenges, and what you believe is possible. Negative thinking narrows your vision. It puts blinders on your creativity. It traps you in a loop where all you see are limits, obstacles, and worst-case scenarios. On the other hand, positive thinking opens up space. It doesn't erase the problem. It expands your ability to face it. Let's say something goes wrong in your day. Maybe a deal falls through. Maybe someone lets you down. Maybe you made a mistake. If your first reaction is negative thinking, this always happens to me. I'm not cut out for this. It's pointless to try. You've just multiplied the problem. Not in reality, but in your perception. And perception is everything. Because the more problems you see, the more helpless you feel. The more helpless you feel, the less likely you are to act. And when you don't act, nothing changes. Negative thinking is a trap disguised as realism. It convinces you that you're just being honest, when in fact you're building walls around solutions you haven't even looked for yet. It's like turning off the lights in a room and then wondering why you can't find the door. You're still in the same room. The exit is still there, but your mindset turned off your ability to see it. Now let's flip that. Imagine the same situation. A deal falls through. A mistake is made, but instead of defaulting to self-blame or frustration, you ask, what can I learn here? What's the next move? Who can I ask for help? What's still in my control? That's positive thinking. Not naive optimism, but intentional problem solving. And with that mindset, your brain starts working for you, not against you. It starts opening doors instead of closing them. It moves from paralysis to possibility. Positive thinking doesn't guarantee success, but it guarantees movement. It guarantees that you're engaging with life instead of withdrawing from it. And that engagement is everything. Because most breakthroughs don't come when things are going smoothly. They come when someone is willing to stay open, when others shut down, to keep asking questions when others are giving up, to stay resourceful, even in the middle of a storm. And let's be clear, positive thinking is not ignoring the facts. It's not about pretending everything is fine when it is. It's about choosing where to put your attention. Will you focus on what's broken or what's possible? Will you dwell on the obstacle or search for the opportunity? That choice, simple as it seems, is what separates the people who grow from failure and the people who stay stuck in. When you shift into positive thinking, you shift into a higher level of awareness. You begin to see more paths. You hear better ideas. You start noticing resources, people, timing, things that were invisible when your mind was clouded by negativity. Because here's the thing, your brain takes orders. If you tell it to find problems, it will. If you tell it to find options, it will. What you look for, you tend to find. So if you want more options in life, more chances, more creativity, more forward motion, don't wait for things to change. Change how you think about things. Kill the negative thinking that keeps you trapped in the same cycle. Choose thoughts that serve you, thoughts that stretch you, thoughts that stretch you, thoughts that move you. Problems will come. That's life. But the mindset you bring to them will decide whether they multiply or dissolve. Negative thinking multiplies problems. Positive thinking multiplies your power to rise above them. The choice is always yours. Negative thinking multiplies problems. Positive thinking multiplies options. That's a law of life, as real as gravity. When something goes wrong, and it will, the way you think about it either adds weight to the problem or lifts you toward the solution. Negative thinking has a way of exaggerating the issue. It takes a flat tire and turns it into a ruined day. It takes a missed opportunity and turns it into a never get anything right. That's not just a thought, It's a chain reaction. One bad moment becomes a bad hour, then a bad day, then a bad habit. This is how it happens. A problem arises. You tell yourself, this is too hard, or it's always like this, or I can't handle this. That internal dialogue doesn't just describe the problem. It feeds it. It creates stress, fogs your judgment, drains your energy. Soon you're not just dealing with the original challenge. You're dealing with all the emotional and mental clutter that your thinking added to it. Now the real danger in negative thinking is not just how it feels. It's what it does. It closes doors. It shuts off your mind to options. It whispers things like, why bother? Or there's nothing I can do. And when you believe those thoughts, you stop looking. You stop trying. And when you stop trying, the situation gets worse. Not because it had to, but because your thinking led you there. Positive thinking does the opposite. It doesn't deny the problem. It simply refuses to add necessary weight to it. It says, yes, this is tough, but let's look at what can still be done. That mindset alone opens up the field. Instead of one narrow way forward, now you see through. You become more flexible, more creative, more persistent. And often that shift in thinking is all it takes to find the breakthrough. See, problems don't kill progress. Rigid thinking does. Life is full of change, challenge, delay, and detour. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to stay open. That's what positive thinking allows you to do. It expands your field of vision. It helps you ask better questions. Who can help? What haven't I tried? What's the next smallest step I can take? These questions lead to movement, and movement leads to momentum. Let's be very clear. Positive thinking is not a trick. It's not about repeating shallow affirmations or pretending nothing is wrong. It's a strategy, a discipline, a way of seeing the problem in its true size. Not bigger, not scarier, but solvable. It's looking at life and saying, even if I can't fix everything right now, I can take one step. I can change one thing. I can try again tomorrow. That kind of thinking doesn't just solve problems. It builds character. It creates resilience. And don't think this is just about personal issues. In business, in relationships, in leadership, this rule holds true. The leader who responds to failure with panic and blame creates chaos. The leader who responds with calm focus creates options. The same challenge, two completely different outcomes, all because of thinking. So when life hands you a challenge, remember, your first thought isn't final. You don't have to believe everything you think. You can pause, reframe, and choose a better response. Choose the thoughts that give you power, that keep you moving, that help you see possibilities instead of problems. Negative thinking builds walls. Positive thinking builds doors. And the best part is, you get to choose which one you walk through, every single time. Your mind is a garden. Weeds grow automatically. Plant flowers deliberately. That's not just a metaphor. It's a mirror of how your inner world operates. If you do nothing with your thinking, negativity will grow by default. Doubt, fear, insecurity, frustration. They don't need an invitation. They show up unannounced and settle in quickly. You don't have to ask for them. They're like weeds in a garden. Give them a little time, a little neglect, and they take over the whole space. Think about it. You never had to teach yourself how to work. You never took a class on how to doubt yourself. You didn't study fear in a textbook and then say, now I'm ready to live with anxiety. No, it just showed up. Why? Because that's how the mind works when it's left unmanaged. It looks for danger, for what's missing, for what could go wrong. It's a survival mechanism, useful when you're crossing a busy street, but destructive when it becomes your default mental setting. Now let's flip the picture. Imagine a garden filled with color, beauty. That doesn't happen by accident. Someone planted the seeds, watered the soil, pulled the weeds, and gave it light. That garden took effort. That's what positive, empowering thoughts require. Deliberate action. You have to plant gratitude. You have to water confidence. You have to prune negative patterns and fertilize new belief. And here's the truth that most people don't want to hear. The quality of your life depends on the condition of your inner garden. If you allow negative thinking to dominate, you'll see it reflected in your relationships, your finances, your health, and your goals. You may have a beautiful dream, but if your mental soil is dry, cluttered, and overrun with weeds, that dream has no place to grow. But this isn't about guilt or blame. It's about responsibility. The moment you accept that your mind is your garden, you reclaim your power. You're no longer a victim of thought. You're a cultivator of thought. You get to choose what you allow, what you encourage, and what you remove. And yes, it takes daily effort. You can't weed the garden once and expect it to stay clean. The same goes for your mind. Every morning you wake up, you have a choice. Will you feed fear, or will you feed faith? Will you water your worries, or will you grow your gratitude? It sounds simple, but these small invisible decisions shape your entire experience of life.